If you died right now, would you leave bills or benefits?
I'm going to leave behind benefits.
Bills? Well, I'll leave both, benefits and bills.
Benefits.
And bills.
I leave shoes, jewelry.
Got a little something saved. I got an insurance policy, but I got some bills too.
That's a funny question.
As a child, my family did not teach me about money because we didn't really have a lot of money growing up.
We didn't have a lot of conversations about it, other than, is it possible I can get a nickel or a dime or a quarter?
So we didn't realize we were being tricked to be a consumer. Until this day, some of us are still consumers because we're still trying to be fresh.
Louis Vuitton don't want black folks in their clothes. Gucci don't want black folks in their clothes. But we kill ourselves to go give the people that hate us the most our money.
We're just kind of living and we're doing it and going on, but not really taking close inventory of what we're spending.
Listen, sisters, I love me some red bottoms just like the next person, but I think it is absolutely ignorant and insane and crazy to be more focused on getting another pair of red bottom shoes when you don't even have a red bottom bank account.
And these kids running around the internet beating each other up for World Star. You got all this other stuff you got to worry about, that they don't sit down and say, this is a dollar, this is a quarter, this is a dime, this is a nickel. And that's what I think the issue is.
So if I don't know myself, you give me $1 billion, I'll act like I don't know who the I am. I'm gonna be in the strip club and throwing it away.
Everybody on Instagram appears rich, particularly to the rest of the world.
Black people, we are the single richest African community on the face of the globe. And it makes absolutely no sense that we have poverty.
In 1910, for instance, we own more businesses per 100,000 African Americans than we do today.
Because right now, 99% of the blacks, of the resource in the countries, are under the hands of whites. 87% of it is frozen, locked into their hands. So how are black folk going to compete?
Living in America, I've witnessed very small portions of land and wealth be transferred from one generation to the next. With $1.1 trillion in buying power, what's prohibiting our team from pooling our talents and winning in society?
And see, the problem is we get paid on Friday, get drunk on Saturday, go to church on Sunday, and then go back to work on Monday.
We can say it's the best of times and the worst of times. We're a $1.1 trillion annual economy. If we were a nation, we'd be the 16th richest nation in the entire world.
We've been taught the wrong things about money. We've been taught that money is a result rather than what it really is a tool.
If I would have understood that early on at a younger age, I would have been way further along in my career than, things just now started to happen.
What can we do to ensure that we're leaving a legacy for our children?
Make sure that you are surrounding yourself with people that have the information and the knowledge of what you need in order to grow to the next level.
We need to make sure that you do have something so your children don't have to start at ground zero again when you pass away, or even negative from having to put you in the ground.
That's right.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good evening. Yo, what legacy will you leave? I couldn't have ended on a better question than that. I'm so excited about everything that's happening right now. You have no idea what we're getting ready to get into. I want to put a quick disclaimer in it. Tonight, we are continuing our legacy series, Establishing Generational Wealth. I know that before we announced that tonight we were going to be dealing with the VA benefits, but we had to call a quick audible because our experts could not get to us tonight from VA benefits. But listen, when I tell you that we upgraded tonight, y'all have no idea what's getting ready to happen. I want you to share. Invite all of your family members and anybody who's around who you think could benefit from this. Hit that share button, like it. Make sure you send plenty of hearts as we're talking. If you're typing, in the live on your Facebook Live and you're typing questions. I can see your questions. I can see your comments, and we will be answering as many questions as possible. And I'm excited. I'm excited tonight. We were trying to figure out who we're going to get to talk about one of the most important conversations when it comes to establishing generational wealth. My friend and sister, Sister Latoya Miller, is actually going to be with us tonight. Let me tell you, Latoya Miller comes from Smalls Miller and Associates, an organization that was formed over 14 years ago to help teach people the basics of personal finance and form a solid foundation so that they can make healthy money choices. Tonight, Latoya will cover life insurance concepts as a continuation of our series of legacy series establishing generational wealth. The disclaimer, as always, is that we are not giving you advice, but we're giving you information. All right, we're not giving advice, but we are giving you information. So please tune in and let's talk about what we don't want to talk about. Let's deal with the gory subject of life insurance. Everybody else talking about it. Everybody else has to deal with it. Let's deal with it ourselves. Mike, would you please bring up my sister Latoya Miller? She's coming to us right now. I got her. Hey, Latoya.
Hey, awesome to be here. Hi, Gary.
Hey, I'm super excited that you're here with us. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this.
Thank you for having me. We couldn't be in a more blessed position than to be asked, of course, to come back and speak on behalf of Smalls Miller and Associates to the awesome Mason Temple Church family. Hey. Can't get any better than that, Gary.
It just can't get any better. I was laughing because when I talked to you, I was like, man, life got real busy. I think, we vacationed in Orlando, Florida. You and your husband. Shout out to your husband.
Absolutely. Yes, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, of course, I had a lot less kids back then, so I may have been a little more financially stable.
Well, we're going to get into it tonight.
Let's do it. Our time always flies by. And so I'm actually getting ready to just let you do your thing. I will interject because my whole point of being here is to make sure that I answer questions that I believe I would have if I was listening to the presentation in the very beginning. And that might mean you have to break down some, $5 words into $1 word,
I got it.
You good with that?
I'm good with that.
All right. Do your thing.
All right. Hello, everyone. Once again, my name is Latoya Miller. I'm with Smalls Miller and Associates. I'm the partner to Tracy Miller. He and I are in business together. And as Gary said earlier, we've been in business for about 14 years, and our sole purpose is to help families make better decisions about money. And we know that it starts from a solid foundation. And so tonight, we couldn't be more happy than to be a part of your building generational wealth through life insurance. And so the subject of life insurance is, as Gary said, one of those things. And so we have a series of slides that we prepared for you tonight. So we'll go ahead and get those up. And so just know that you can't talk about life insurance without first talking about how money works, right? So you want to make sure that you understand some basic concepts about how money works. So we'll get into that tonight. We'll get into a few life insurance basics. And of course, life insurance, as most people know, they go hand in hand a lot of times with your savings and investments. And so we'll touch up a little bit on that tonight as well. And I know you guys are going to be having that as a separate conversation through your Building Generational Wealth series. But just know that we'll touch a little bit on that tonight as well. So if we can go ahead and get to the next slide. Just know I am licensed in South Carolina to do life insurance. We're licensed in all the states that you see there: Georgia, Florida, Texas, New York. And then we're also registered representatives, meaning that we are also able to do investments. We can set up the plans for retirement, to send your children to college, and a host of other things to help you reach your financial objectives tonight. And so what we are not tax attorneys or tax advisors, right? And so as always, we always want you to reach out to your tax professionals for advice on taxes and those kinds of things. Okay, we can go to the next slide. And so let's start at the bottom, right? So make sure everybody's on the same page. We want to make sure you understand how life insurance fits into your total financial home, right? And you build your financial house, guys, just like you would build any other house, right? From the ground up, from the foundation. And the foundation of your financial plan is your life insurance, okay? And so that's where we want to make sure you're protecting your income. And then just above that, I know you guys just had an awesome series on wills and you broke it down. I mean, you guys dug into that thing deep. Well, guess what? That's just above putting your financial plan in place. It's just above the life insurance. That's where you do the wills. We want to make sure you have an emergency fund, that you have some control in terms of a budget. You know what's coming in, you know what's got to go out, right? And then you can get to debt. I know a lot of people have questions about credit. I know you'll be getting into that as well. So you're going to be building the financial home essentially through this series, right? And then you get to retirement. Guys, I have a lot of people who want to jump straight up there to college savings, right? And I say that because I know you see that bill rolling down the hill towards you. You know the kids are getting older. But guys, we have to have some conversations about making sure you have your retirement home in order first before we start saving for that college plan. Why? Because however, they have time, right? They can get a loan, although we don't want them to do that. Guess what? You cannot get a loan to retire. So we want to make sure you're in a great position to take care of those things and ultimately get to your other goals and dreams. But why am I going through all that when we're supposed to be talking about life insurance, right? Guys, if you don't build that foundation solidly, anything you build on top of this, anything will fall. If you don't have an emergency plan in place, you know, it will crumble. So it's important that you build it the right way. And so I wanted everybody to know how your life insurance fits into the larger financial plan. Does that make sense? And I know you guys are chatting it up, and I can't see the chat, but I know Gary will be interjected as we go along, right? So we can go ahead and go to the next slide, right? And so what's the importance of it, right? I know several of you out there have your life insurance in place, and awesome. But guess what? We have to understand how important it is. So let's take a look at this. How much is your car worth, right? And do you insure it? You probably do, because there's a law requiring you to do that if you're going to be riding on the roads, right? And then how much is your house worth? Well, before you closed on it, you were required to have some kind of insurance plan in place before you closed on it. But guess what? How much is your life worth? Right? There's nobody requiring you to have that in place. And so it's important for you to understand that your life is worth a lot more than that car or that home, right? And so what am I saying? I'm essentially saying can you afford not to insure your life? That's the question you should be asking, because I know it's one of those things that's so easy to put off, right? We kind of put it, I'll get to it later, you know? And so it's important to understand that you have to prioritize it. And so tonight we're going to get into it a little bit. You can go to the next slide. And so let's talk about how people are covered. So we have the coverage quadrant here, right? Guys, unfortunately, we do have people in that first quadrant where they don't have any coverage, right? There's a lot of fear, worry, and uncertainty in that quadrant. And we certainly don't want you to be in that quadrant tonight, right? And so we want to make sure you understand that you first need some. Then there are people who have limited coverage. So let's talk a little bit about limited coverage. Limited coverage is when you may have a life insurance plan for your mortgage, right? It's limited to paying off your mortgage, right? Or you may have coverage on your job, right? My job covers me. So with limited coverage, there are some issues in that you may only be able to get a certain amount, right? So it's limited to maybe 1 to 5 times your salary, right? And then there may be portability issues with a limited coverage. What happens if you're working and all of a sudden you can't work anymore, or you get laid off, or you get sick and can't work. Can you take that with you? Okay, so there are limited coverages out there. And then there's cash value insurance, right? Cash value insurance offers a protection. There is coverage there, right? It's a little bit more, right? But there is a coverage and it builds a savings. That's the cash value insurance. And there are lots of names. We'll get into that. Then there's term insurance, right? Term insurance, guys, is pure protection, right? It's typically you can get more coverage, and it's there when you need it. It's typically for a term. It's called term because it's usually for a period. 15, 20, 25, 30, 35 years, right? So every term could be different, and there are different types of terms, okay? So we'll get into that as well.
So tell you, before you get on.
Go ahead.
Something's going on with the explain the portability of an asset.
Portability. So back with the limited coverage, is that what you're talking about? So when you have your job coverage, a lot of times when you maybe you want to leave that job, but you like the coverage, a lot of times there may be issues because they have a group term most of the time. Well, if you want to leave and you're no longer a part of that group, a lot of times there may be issues with taking that with you because you're a part of the group, right? Or if you are able to take it with you, maybe there are additional expenses, because once you were a part of the group, it was really cheap, and everybody should be shaking their heads, right? Because we all know that group coverage is super cheap, but when you're no longer a part of that group, that coverage may incur additional expenses if you are allowed to take it with you. So there's some limitations on portability, taking it with you. Gary, does that make sense?
It does.
Okay, and then so ultimately there are two types, right? So we want to make it real simple for us tonight. Two types of coverages. You have cash value and term insurance, right? And so I'm going to just focus on the differences between those two. So cash value, right? You have whole life. Whole life, it has a lot of different names. It could be whole life, there's universal life, variable life. So it has a lot of different names, right? But essentially, the life insurance and your savings are bundled. Okay. And so there's some different treatments in terms of the cash value for universal versus variable. But essentially, the savings and the life insurance component is bundled. Okay. Does that make sense? And then you also have a little bit higher cost and less protection because it lasts your whole life. Okay. So just know that it's whole or permanent insurance. All right. And then you'll get the life insurance or you'll get the savings. Okay. And then I want to come over here to the term part. And this is specifically buying term insurance and investing the difference. Okay. So with level term, meaning it stays level, right, for 15, 20, 25, 30, 35 years, right? It stays level. The death benefit stays level for that term, okay? And then at the end of the term, you will renew, okay, for another term.